How effective are you at closing your demonstrations? Today I'll give you 4 practical tips that are often missed by sales engineers and sales executives. As sales engineers, we spend a lot of time thinking about the best ways to do demonstrations. We think about how to open up the session with a short 5 to 15 minute discovery. We think about how to break up the session into bite-sized, digestible scenes with techniques such as tell, show, tell. But how much do we think about how to actually close a demonstration? This is underemphasized, in my opinion. Are we guilty of losing our focus after delivering a strong demonstration? Do we skip to the next steps, leaving everyone hanging and guessing? Is the end of the meeting rushed, with the close even skipped? Do we even not have a closing discussion at all? In principle, I think we would all agree that we should always be proactively ending the demonstrations by defining what is going to happen next. Everyone involved in a demonstration session should be in agreement as to what the next follow-up steps are. Today I have 4 practical tips that should help you in your demonstration closing. Tip number 1, take structured notes. Either you as the sales engineer or the sales executive should be taking copious notes during the session. A close friend of mine worked for Bain & Company during the 1980s and once gave me a tip regarding how to take notes during meetings. And he said, when starting a meeting, you should always set apart a section of your notepad or your electronic document with key summary points and follow-up items. And the idea is that you fill those in as the meeting goes along. The hope is that you don't have to scan them at the end of the meeting. Tips 2, 3, and 4 include the summarization of what we just demonstrated. It also includes a check to determine if the prospect learned what they needed to learn. And then finally, we come to agreement on the next steps. Years ago, I read a book called Just-Fuckingdemo. It's written by, I believe, robfalcone, and I think the publishing year is 2014. You should Google it. He suggests closing demos with 3 steps, which closely match to what I just mentioned. And that leads me to tip number 2, the second tell. We need to summarize what we demonstrated, focusing on those key areas that we determined as important when we were doing the discovery process. These are things that are worth solving. Generally speaking, we as well-trained sales engineers are pretty good at doing this area, using the tell, show, tell technique of doing demonstrations. Tip number 3, what did the prospect learn in their own words? We need to ask if the prospect learned what they needed from this actual demonstration to achieve the goals or overcome the current challenges that they may have. This is often missed in my view. For example, let's suppose that we're demonstrating an e-signature solution. We want to know if the demonstration helped the prospect understand the current e-commerce contractual approval process, and can it be optimized with our solution? Did they learn how it can reduce friction to increase sales? This is an opportunity to hear in their words how the demonstration actually went. Did the demonstration help them better understand how our solution can help them overcome their challenges or their discussed goals? And finally, tip 4, which is related to tip 1 on note-taking. What are the follow-up actions? What was discussed during the session? Did you as the SC or the sales executive take copious notes with follow-up items highlighted so that they're easy to get to? It may be that a follow-up discussion is required on a specific functional area of the solution. Or perhaps, as an example, there may be some security aspects about the solution that need further explanation from other people in the prospect's organization. Again, this is part of the demonstration that is often skipped because of poor time management, despite being actually the most important part of the sales demo. My question for you today is, how do you actually close a demonstration session? What are the top 2 or 3 things that make for a productive close? Thanks for joining me in this episode. We'll see you next week.